Oak Bay Gordon Head.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I take my place in second reading of Bill 22, Civil Resolution Tribunal Amendment Act 2018. As has been mentioned, Honourable Speaker, this bill implements changes that were previously announced by government on February 6th. And the major change in this bill, of course, is expanding the scope of the Civil Resolution Tribunal to adjudicate disputes over certain motor vehicle injury claims. Now, Honourable Speaker, such additions are not without their controversy, but profoundly needed in the province of British Columbia. We've watched year after year the financial issues within ICBC escalate to the point where now the ICBC is literally well over $1 billion in debt. Honourable Speaker, if we look in specific details at some of the facts with respect to ICBC right now, we know that injury claims totaled $2.7 billion in 2016, which was an 80% increase in the last 7 years. And we know that the average claim paid out for minor injuries has risen from $8,200 in the year 2000 to $30,038 in 2016. And that's an increase of a whopping 265%. At the same time, we also know, Honourable Speaker, the average pain and suffering awards paid out for minor injuries have risen from $5,004 in the year 2000 to more than $16,499 in 2016. Vehicle damage costs have increased 30% in just 2 years to a total of $1.5 billion in 2016 alone. So, Honourable Speaker, the use of the Civil Resolution Tribunal for minor injury dispute resolutions means that claimants who don't use a lawyer will actually be able to keep their entire settlement rather than paying a portion of their fees. And in actually doing so, Honourable Speaker, means that the province of British Columbia is the last province in Canada to abandon a system which is essentially known as a full tort system, one where anyone can sue anyone with respect to motor vehicle accidents. So I do commend the Attorney General and his office for bringing such legislation forward in a timely fashion to get a handle on the escalating costs within ICBC. Now, as was mentioned, this is not without its controversy, Honourable Speaker. There will be, of course, trial lawyers who are concerned about what this means in terms of their livelihood. There's nothing in this legislation that says you can't hire a lawyer. In fact, Section 16, I believe it is, specifically says lawyers will be allowed to represent parties in motor vehicle claims as ICBC will be represented by experienced adjusters. So I recognize that there may be some concern within trial lawyers, but again, I come back, Honourable Speaker, to the point that British Columbia is the last province in Canada that still has a full tort system here where everybody can sue anybody whenever they want. It's not only the scope of the Civil Resolution Tribunal's scope is not only expanded profoundly in the area of motor vehicle injury claims, but also there's some tightening and expansion and identification of rules and regulations where the Civil Resolution Tribunal can also be used for strata property act disputes, things like condominiums or bare land stratas, as well as some small adjustments to small claims in here. And there's also some adjustments to the area of cooperatives, which are modified slightly in this Act. Overall, I recognize that a lot is left to regulation, but in this particular case, while more generally I get concerned when a lot is left in regulation, I understand in this case we're talking about a rather fundamental shift in the way motor vehicle claims are dealt with in the province of British Columbia, and there's a danger if too much is done in legislation, government could not respond nimbly to changes that might be required, particularly as has been identified by some pundits when lawyers are able to find ways around the intent of the legislation to find other additional means of still engaging claims in Supreme Court by finding various loopholes in the means and ways claims should be processed. Overall, Honourable Speaker, this is a piece of legislation we're proud to support. We look forward to exploring some of the details in committee stage, and also the concomitant legislation, which makes a cap on claims which I believe will be forthcoming at a later date. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.